All right. Well, we have the most special guest today. Want to introduce them?
This is my dad, Dr. John Markham.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yes, thanks for coming to the podcast.
I know. So, you got a whole list of questions for Dad?
Just some inspo questions if we reached a lull in the conversation, but we don't have to use them or
Okay.
we do whatever we want.
Well, you've got incredible chiropractic stories. So, the people who are watching this range from the people in the public, other chiropractic students, and your fellow chiropractic doctors. So, I mean, today I just wanted to facilitate us getting to know you better and telling us all the incredible stories that you've had through, I mean, how many years have you been doing this?
Well, I started Palmer in 1975.
Yeah.
So 2025 was 50 years in the profession.
Yeah, it's
pretty
amazing.
good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
So, how would you like to start? What do you want to know about your dad first?
Dun, dun, dun. Maybe just let's just start with how you became a chiropractor first.
I became a chiropractor by accident. It seems that way, but not really. There was a divine plan, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As I will mention to students when I lecture, I'm a recovering engineer.
Yeah.
I was a computer engineer and worked in that field for a couple of years, and I just wasn't happy in there. And I went back to University of North Carolina in Charlotte, where I graduated. Went to the counseling department and said, hey, I feel like a square peg in a round hole. I like engineering kinds of stuff. It's fascinating, but just not happy with this. So they did all the testing and talked to me. And they said, well, no wonder. Your personality, you are not like engineers.
Yeah.
They're not talking about competency. This was just personality, style, and how I dealt with life.
Right.
And what they came up with, they said, well, your highest profile here is you should be a rock star. I'm in favor of that.
This sounds
But it's
great.
kind of required. He said, probably it's okay. What else you got? And my profile, was I was very amenable to life sciences and teaching and those kinds of fields, and started to rethink my professional life. And he mentioned to me at that meeting, he says, have you ever thought about chiropractic as a career? I says, no, I want to do something that's respectable.
Yeah.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and through my growing up years, the chiropractors were the butt of many jokes, not respected, not regarded. In fact, my parents wouldn't let me go see a chiropractor, even though a friend had recommended one to me. And the argument was from my parents, they said, well, if there was anything to it, don't you think real doctors would know all about it?
Sure.
Well, from their point of view, that made perfect sense.
Well,
From what they thought they knew, it made perfect sense. So I went along with that. Okay, well, fast forward then, I'm having this conversation. And so my response was very understandable in that context. No, it's not respectable. And so I determined at that point, I said, well, I'm going to look into what options are in front of me. Mm-hmm. And I was very interested in psychology. I was very interested in maybe going to medical school. I was interested in maybe even physical therapy. I was just looking at what my options were. I even went and took the MCAT and tried to get myself ready to make a career change. And I ended up accidentally reading the book by Marcus Spock on chiropractic. 5,000 years and there's this medical breakthrough. And I read that book, and it was as if a divine message was given. It's like, that's it. That's what you've been looking for. And it was so clear to me. And I made a decision. I'm going to become a chiropractor.
What was it in the book? Like,
And
do
we
you
just talked
remember
about,
what you read?
yeah, what impressed me was the impact you could make in health and healing with just your hands, without drugs and without surgery.
Hmm.
And the idea, the way Palmer had developed it, was a unique proposition. Medicine was about the naming and the treatment of disease. Chiropractic was about the expression of health. And it didn't require drugs and surgery. And that just resonated so powerfully to my core. That's it. That's what I'm looking for.
Is that something, I'm sorry to
No, yeah.
continue your story. Is that something that you learned? Like, why did that resonate with you so much? Like, you hadn't had really
No, my background wasn't amenable to that. I do recall, though, that in the lead up to that, I'd been reading a lot of information on the environmental movement and being very persuaded that we needed to do better in cleaning up, the environment. So that's kind of a more ecological, natural kind of approach. Had nothing to do with computer engineering, but I just being kind of conditioned maybe a little bit to think along those lines. But it was kind of out of the blue to me. And I felt like a light came on and my head was clear. So, oh, that's it. So I felt like it was divine guidance, and so I took it at that. And so then I went to visit Dr. Fletcher Keith in Charlotte, North Carolina. I said, I better find out what chiropractors do. I went to his office one evening. It was about 7:30 in the evenings. His waiting room still had like 30, 40 people in the waiting room. I didn't know him from any other thing. I looked him up in the phone book. And he was a DCPC, and those were the more letters than anybody else had, so I went to his office. Couldn't have picked a better office.
Yeah.
He saw 250, 300 patients a day. He had like 15, 20 adjusting rooms.
Wow.
Big staff.
Big heads then.
So later on I discovered this, but at that night, it's 7 o'clock. They would, treat patients till 9, whenever they were done.
Yeah.
But every room was full, the waiting room was full, and he sat back at his desk and took 20 minutes just to sit down and shoot the breeze with me about chiropractic.
That's cool.
I could not believe he did that.
Yeah.
And he was not hurried, he wasn't, he just boom, 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 he just handled it. And so I started to volunteer in his office after work. I'd go to work at Duke Power Company and then go to work in the evenings with him to learn what it was. And it was just an amazing, became a patient there and, had the whole experience. And during that preparation time, I was trying to decide which chiropractic school to go to. And I wanted the oldest, most established program, Sid Palmer, was the one I decided to go to. And I remember I had dreams. I recorded my dreams every night, and I was touring the Palmer campus in my dreams.
Really?
So that when I got there, I knew my way around the campus pretty well.
Very cool.
It was like, okay, totally in the right place.
Yeah.
So a few hints along the way. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah. This is
Yeah. So it's not, most of my classmates at Palmer had chiropractic stories where they had a problem and how chiropractic helped them, or they were from a chiropractic family.
Sure.
Very few like me. Which sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Today's student, very eclectic. So many of them just, chiropractic sounds like it might be a good career choice. They don't have any experience with chiropractic. They don't know any chiropractors, but yet they show up. So it's a little different motivation for most students today. But when you feel you're led to, or something aligns for you, you just go for it.
Yeah. Would you mind explaining to the audience what you do at Life University? Because you were involved with the students so intimately. And so you have a really great vision to understand how it's progressed throughout the years and just like you said, the mindset of a student today.
Yeah. I started at Life in 1985. And when I came on with the faculty, I spent half of my time in the research department and had a lot of fun and did some research, got some things published early on. And the other half was teaching in the classroom. I had a variety of classes to teach, eventually became a full professor on the academic side. But when I was hired on, Dr. Sid was still interviewing everyone that came on board. And that was an interesting time to sit down with Dr. Sid. He was quite the personality, and you never knew what to expect in an interview setting from him. But he and I hit it off. He liked me, and so I got accepted. But back in that day, his powerful rhetoric and explanation of chiropractic, his understanding of the principle, and the ability to teach, like for the whole DE movement, that was Dr. Sid. His passion for the essence of chiropractic, which really was about innate and the power of the adjustment, and that's kind of what he focused on always. And that drove the school so much. When he stepped away from the school, there was a vacuum. Now, Dr. Sid was somewhat controversial because he could be.
He was very opinionated.
Well, and that's not a bad thing always, but he sometimes didn't serve him well or the profession well. Sometimes he would stick to his guns when he ought to change. But isn't that true of so many, great powerful leaders?
Yeah, exactly.
But thanks to him, we have the school.
Right.
And that legacy needs to be protected and preserved. And so what we have now is the school got unduly influenced as the CCE grew in power. And the CCE changed the nature of the chiropractic education at Life. Life was very resistant. We wanted to preserve kind of the old traditional ways. In fact, the ways I was taught at Palmer, what we were doing at Life, but the CCE began to change how chiropractic was taught, what was emphasized, how the tests were going to be administered from the national board, what was on them, and that those had to be passed in order to be licensed. And so that subtle influence changed the nature of the education enough that many schools today don't even teach the word subluxation. They don't focus on the adjustment. Some of the students will come to seminars with Life students, and they're wondering what the students are doing because they haven't ever seen an adjustment.
Yeah.
And they don't know what a subluxation is. And so this is something very proud of at Life, that our students are good at adjusting.
Yeah.
Better than other schools. There's some other really strong schools still around, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But too many are weak in this area, and it's kind of the reason we exist. But the curriculum change, because of the focus on diagnosis and treatment, that's antithetical to chiropractic philosophy. I don't disagree that chiropractors should be able to recognize classic diagnostic entities and refer to them and with proper medical terminology, because we need to communicate across the professions. But the rationale for why we do what we do, someone's diagnosed with migraine headache, we don't deliver a migraine adjustment. One person, it might be a Logan basic contact.
Yeah.
Someone else might be an upper cervical. Someone else, it would be some other approach.
Right.
The point is to find the interferential movement, let the nervous system harmonize and balance, and then see how does the body adapt.
Right.
And if after that they still have issues that need help, maybe they could be attended by another physician. We don't claim that we can cure all things or help all people, but let's do the simple, safe thing first.
Yeah.
And surprising how beneficial that can be for people. I mean, through my years, I've had the opportunity to study with Goodhart and Clay Thompson and Richard Van Ron, Ian Toffness, so many, Vern Pierce.
Yeah.
So many of the people,
The pioneers.
Ray Nimmo, worked with these people directly, and regardless of how they approach chiropractic, we were unified on this idea, of the principle of chiropractic,
Right.
and how it was applied. That varied enormously because we all knew we had consensus on these. This is what's being challenged now,
Right.
and we have to guard that, because if we're just going to be manipulators and get joint cavitation based on some of their finding, the doctors of physical therapy do a wonderful job. They're excellently trained.
Yeah.
They have a lot more money than we have for research. Go that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we do.
Yeah.
It's different. It looks similar to the casual observer, but it's worlds apart.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the whole functional neurology influence has been very good for chiropractic. Some of the other technique systems where they're doing more research to validate our methods and outcomes, that very strong. We need to have more of that, and those are what's going to prevail
Right.
and carry the day.
Well, I mean,
There's some good ones happening.
For sure. I mean, we're in this mindset with the United States and the world is very medically minded, where we thrive on peer-reviewed research and, a particular kind of study. And in order for us, in my opinion, to really break into the minds of the public, we have to align with the system that they accept. And so many chiropractors throughout time, thankfully, have had such a massive voice, and it's cool that there are people going out and going, hey, how do we bring this spiritual, this metaphysical and physical principle and prove its existence through the parameters that everybody else wants it to be categorized as.
It's a dilemma. It has always been the dilemma, because chiropractic has posited itself as a vitalistic philosophy.
Right.
Medicine is a mechanistic philosophy.
Right.
Those philosophies represent basically your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere,
Right.
those views and perceptions of the world. And so those seem to be at cross purposes, but they don't need to be. We just simply misunderstand. And so when people hold a mechanistic view, they're usually 100% right in what they say,
Yeah.
but it's in a very narrow, focused area where the factual information makes sense, because that's the left brain's domain. Detailed analysis, mechanistic thinking.
Yeah.
The right brain, where the innate philosophy kind of is expressed, has a broad global. We want to have the wisdom about the whole, not just the detailed knowledge of the part. And that's why the chiropractic is, you want to shape the world. This is the idea that we have to convince people, yes, we have to use the jargon and the models, say the double-blind research study is not a way to arrive at truth.
Right.
It's a way to arrive at facts.
Right.
Facts that hopefully can be shaped by the umbrella of our innate or vitalistic model of reality. And those facts then feed and support and are useful.
Right.
But when we remove all of that, and that's what so much has happened in Western science and medical science especially, is they've gotten rid of that whole physical, spiritual, metaphysical alliance. Is that we get rid of all that stuff, all we want is pure science. And they've done some good stuff, but there's a lot missing now.
I'm thinking just right now, I don't know why I never thought of this, but I was talking with another student friend of mine who was like, well, the challenge in chiropractic is that there isn't this blind and double blind way, because you can't deliver a chiropractic adjustment as a doctor and not know what you're doing, and you probably know that you're receiving a neurological input as the patient. But I was just thinking right now, like, it's such a fascinating argument for somebody who's like trying to put down chiropractic that there isn't double-blind studies, which is true, but there's no double-blind studies for brain surgery.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no double-blind studies for
I hope
surgery.
your eyes are open.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you can't have a double-blind study for surgery.
brain surgery.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the control.
To prove that it's a fact.
But is that not ridiculous? Like, this is an argument that I felt like I've heard so many times. Well, there's no double-blind in chiropractic. Well, yeah, but neither is there in most of the most incredible parts of medicine. We just had yesterday, I was interviewing Dr. Tom Kovacs, and he had Parkinson's, and he went and did a surgery where they input these, I don't know, I'm saying electrodes, this is probably not the right terminology, but they put two little things in his brain, and then a battery pack in his heart, and he had tremors for years, and they turned it on, and there was no tremors immediately. I mean, there's no blind and double-blind study for that, but the man has his life back. He couldn't dress himself. I mean, he is out boxing now. I mean, he went from not being able to have this aspect of life that is so important, and like, it created challenges within his marriage and his self-image. And it's like, well, this is what chiropractic is, in the sense that, whatever, guys, we don't have a double-blind study, but chiropractic is this part of our life that we can share with others, and it really gives people the opportunity to have a second chance for something that maybe they didn't know was preventable, because people don't know about chiropractic.
No. The double-blind study argument is difficult for us because, like you said, we can't do sham adjustments.
Right.
For instance, the tonal techniques in chiropractic often use very light, sustained pressures.
Mm-hmm.
A few ounces of light touch held for a period of time at a specific point, at a specific line of drive and time duration. Well, if that can change the nervous system, what could you offer? And before, they would offer a sham adjustment, say, well, we're going to turn the activator down to zero, so there's no excursion, and do that over a patient and call that a sham. But if you take the activator and actually turn it all the way down like they're calling it, zero, and put it over a force plate, you still get a pressure wave because of the hammer anvil construction. You still get a concussion wave, and that's how the upper cervical instruments are designed to create that concussion waveform. You're still inputting force. And then the other techniques that deal with intentionality, that just the thought process creates an energy field and directed appropriately, and the patient's receptive. That thought force and connectivity can make changes.
Right.
So it's very hard. So what we have to do, research-wise, is then to show state changes, where we can assess the patient before and after the procedure. Right. Even if we can't make it a sham, we could do people who don't receive the procedure and those who receive, and show those are the kinds of controls we can offer. Right. And we can offer, I know that you're very familiar with chiropractic biophysics and techniques like that, where they'll do assessments of spinal curvature using X-ray, and they'll do other measurements, and they routinely check progress to show to themselves and to the patient, look, things are changing even though you're not aware of what's changing. And it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
That's pretty amazing.
You had an experience with that? with the spine changing, or?
Yes. So I had a like my own personal experience.
Yeah.
So I had not, because you practice toughness that I'm aware of, and so when I'm at Dalton, he practices chiropractic practice, and so but I'd been I'd been traveling and living life and all this fun stuff. So I got my X-rays redone, and just under a few weeks of traction, not a few weeks, maybe a couple months of traction and everything, my neck was flat, and it has, it's no longer protruding forward, it's now like more straight, so we're working on it. And then
But you could see your change.
Yeah. From what I heard in the office, I'm no chiropractor myself, but from what I heard in the office, it's quite
on the way.
on the way. It was quite impressive change, which is really cool.
Well, your neck curve was reversed.
Yeah.
And so, Bella is 23 with a reverse curve in her neck. The amount of side effects of that structure in 20 years, could just be terrible, and thankfully we were able to just catch it early because...
And she's young enough that that's going to make a huge difference in your life. What was your thinking? Because your mom and I both were chiropractors. Mm-hmm. What did you think about chiropractic growing up? Did you think about it at all, or was just that weird thing?
It was just honestly, it was just like this ambiguous word that was just like, my parents are chiropractor. And so it was a really fascinating experience because on my own, and then I hear more and more stories about my childhood. I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. But it felt like an individual journey at some point, where I found yoga and I found all these things, these little pieces of this puzzle that have just been kind of pointing me into this more holistic healing. And then I come home after traveling and experiencing these things and meeting Dalton, and Dalton being like, that's chiropractic. And I was like, really? and then I think about as a kid, begging to do energy work and Tai Chi as a family. And I think about when I taught my first yoga class, mom raised her hand and told this story, and she started crying when I asked the whole room to with me, because she remembers at 2 years old how I was just wanting and ready to with everybody, but you had to take Emily out of the room because she could barely sit still. And so it just feels like this exploration and this time, I couldn't be more thankful to have gone back to life and been reintroduced to this thing that's kind of just been surrounding me for so long, with a deeper level of understanding and a deeper level of understanding for you and mom too, which is really cool.
It reminds me, make me think about what they talk about, a fish in the fishbowl. Mm-hmm. They're swimming in the water. They're not aware that they're swimming in the water, because that's just the medium. So you existed in this world. That's just the water you were swimming in.
No, it's true.
But that's very cool that you had kind of an awakening and awareness of saying, oh, well, yes, this is how I've lived and the things that make sense to me. Now I know why.
Now I know why. And, it's funny because Dalton always, when we first met, he goes, you have no idea how lucky you are for the amount that you don't have to unlearn, regarding to all this stuff. And so that's been really amazing and cool. And I'm super excited. You're talking about functional neurology and how it feels like my pathway into this started with yoga and breath work and meditation, to then being interested in more spiritual texts and spiritual things, finding this life is made of service, and then meeting Dalton and being here's how you can serve all of humanity, and it's okay, that's kind of cool.
And breathwork changes neurology.
I know, and they all.
Yeah, it's a very strong connection.
Oh, I did want to say something, because when you were talking about the the almost dichotomy that we sit with the left and the right brain, chiropractic's an interesting field because it kind of sits on the axis of the left and the right brain, whereas all of the more natural healings never really got standardized in the same way. Like we have universities that are chiropractic and all these things, so it makes sense that it's sort of done this weird twinge branch where it kind of maybe got more left brain and some people maybe got more right brain. It's not, it's a funky thing to figure out because yoga, it's super not standardized and Reiki's super not standardized, but you try to make it so like this form of healing that's been, even before B.J. Palmer, like ancient healing, like
Yes.
it's all been here.
Yeah, the Chinese arts, the Qigong, the Tai Chi,
Yeah.
Ayurvedic medicine,
Totally.
all of that stuff has been around for millennia,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's all rooted in the same understanding. And how do we negotiate, mechanism and vitalism, our ability to analyze and detail focus, and our ability to stay open to what we call in chiropractic the innate experience and inform. So yes, but we have to find that balance and be comfortable with allowing ourselves to shift into state when wanting to flow in a moment, but be able to step back and be very left brain and academic if needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it too because it's just, it really is, feels like a full expression of my human existence where you have a connection with another human being. First and foremost, that's like you can have love for yourself and others just by showing up in the same room. We have a spiritual foundation where we bring, whatever religious or spiritual following that somebody has, they can bring that into the practice of chiropractic. And also you have this like incredibly intellectual way of assessing somebody. And, I think that the greatest chiropractors that we all recognize had the adjustment with the little extra something where you could understand how to measure x-rays or like this degree and that degree, but what really separates an incredible adjustment in somebody's ability to heal is that human connection and like the artistry of touching somebody. We had a couple of students over here the other day and they wanted to understand how do you approach somebody who's more tense or more lax. Like, as you were saying earlier, there's a time and a place for it. And for me, I feel like the adjustment always starts with communicating our level of trust. The first time you're interacting with a patient and their ability to let go and tell you what actually is happening, and our ability as doctors to be able to inspire somebody to just let out what's happened to them if they had traumatic experiences, whether they are something that's a table conversation or something that you tell somebody in secret. Our ability to empower and pull things out of people is so much of a unique industry and profession to choose. It's just like there's just no part of our brain or our existence that isn't able to be tapped into to create such a healing experience. That's why I think it's so cool about it.
It is. I love that part because when D.D. Palmer was trying to put this concept together, he looked at medicine and said, there's something missing. They're trying to deal with the physical man, but they've ignored the spiritual man.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole chiropractic philosophy is, how do we have a more secular language to describe spiritual principles of universal intelligence and innate intelligence? Those are metaphorical ways of describing, God and the spirit within man, but it keeps it on a more professional, secular, language. But the whole point is, he felt that medicine had abandoned that concept and gone strictly all physical.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was trying to get the spiritual person and the physical person to be considered in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
That used to be the way it was. In the middle centuries, there wasn't a lot great about the middle centuries, in the year 1000 or 1500, but the Renaissance started shifting things, but they did have the concept that healing was a spiritual domain, and the physician priest was a common confluence. In fact, you see in a lot of primitive cultures, the medicine man or the medicine woman in the church is a spiritual leader. And they teach through spiritual methods. They heal through spiritual, and yet they attend with their potions or their procedures also in a methodology that's come more left-brained. They blend that. And we became more schizoid and we fragmented off that. And so now we're trying to say, no, the idea is right.
Yeah.
They belong together. And as we blend that and learn how to navigate this territory, we're finding many people in medicine now are recognizing that it's true.
Yeah.
And they say, I want to practice medicine with this concept.
Right.
And you can.
Yeah.
You can. There was a student came to Palmer many years ago. And before he came to school, he used to train physicians and surgeons in California how to see auras.
Yeah.
And some of these doctors were working in Mayo Clinic, some were performing surgery at different places in California. But once they got trained in how to tune in using that particular mechanism, they became better diagnosticians and better able to practice medicine more holistically.
Yeah.
And so now you have people practicing holistic medicine. They'll use medications, but they might just as easily use herbs or homeopathics or other natural processes and not rely exclusively on the pharmacological approach as a way to wellness. And so we are leading the charge in reestablishing that way of thinking.
Yeah.
And as we are becoming more successful, more and more people will be coming to it. While there's a lull right now in enrollment in chiropractic colleges, the need for chiropractors in the next 7 years is going to double.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And this is where people are spending. So if chiropractors are telling their story, people want what we're going to be selling. And so we're going to need more chiropractors. So the schools will have the resurgence as that becomes aware.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's true. What do you think coming into like such a strong lineage of chiropractic into this new world where the world, I believe the world that we're living in is just like you said, right? It's ready to get that low-hanging fruit. Like to be a chiropractor today feels to me like the greatest possibility that we can change the mindset of our planet.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, I feel like I feel like often I spent like a lot of my early adulthood like in this like man's search for meaning moment, looking into psychology, looking into all these things, and then just coming into this is just like all of that energy that I felt was everywhere can get funneled into this experience and actually really change things and do good, and it's exciting. I mean, it's the coolest thing to be like not just connected to you and not just connected to my family and but the opportunity to connect with like everyone, and so it's incredible.
That word is a good one. You've used it, a connection.
Yeah.
That's the secret sauce. Is that spirit, heart to heart?
Yeah.
Innate connection that we talk about in chiropractic. That's the secret sauce. And if the other professions ever caught on to that, they'd be dangerous. But as long as they think that that's a bunch of hooey, they'll never know why we get better results as chiropractors than they can.
Yeah.
I had a multidisciplinary practice at one time. And I had an orthopedic surgeon on my staff. I had a GP on my staff, physical therapist on my staff, other chiropractors, the massage. We had the whole multidisciplinary thing going. And we do case conference each week. We'd all sit down and review the cases we're managing in the practice. And it was interesting. The orthopedic surgeon was always commenting, very commonly, he was surprised at how many patients did not need medication or special procedures that normally he would have recommended.
Yeah.
The physical therapist was commonly commenting on how the patients were actually getting well, that they were used to see them getting better, but they never saw them get this level of well.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the conference saying, I've never seen my patients hold their adjustments so well.
Good.
So it was like, clear to me, we all had something to contribute.
Yeah.
The medical doctor didn't need to do any of the heroic, high-risk procedures
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
But then the office didn't need him to do those things to survive. So
Yeah.
what he could say only needed when necessary, he didn't find much occasion to need it. The physical therapist was able to work, with the patients and do their thing, and it balanced out with the chiropractic. So I got to just be a chiropractor and just adjust.
That's great.
It was a great learning experience for me.
Yeah.
To see that we can actually be integrated, and when the politics and the
Egos.
professional egos aren't in the way, we actually
It's
work
awesome.
beautifully.
Yeah.
And the patient was the winner.
Right. Totally. What are some of your favorite patient stories that you've experienced through time?
Well, there was one fellow, he was dead for 3 weeks, and I adjusted. I'm just kidding. It didn't really happen. He was only dead 3 days.
Okay, Jesus.
Yeah. That's
So, I recall some of my favorite stories were kind of early on. I was still a student at Palmer, and I was trying to learn the toughness technique. And it was weird, and I was trying to learn it. You had to learn to rub this instrument and scan the body with the instrument. And so one upperclassman that I knew had developed a brachial neuralgia, very painful, a couple of weeks. He'd been adjusted to school a couple of times, gone to some field doctors, a couple of students that worked with him, and it was not getting better. He was in agony. And he grabbed me and said, I heard you've been learning this weird toughness stuff. So I'm trying. I don't know if I know anything about it. So he wanted me to check him. So he came over to my apartment. Not that it's ever good for a student to adjust outside of the clinic. God forbid, but it happened once in the olden times.
Yeah, right.
So he came over, I scanned him, and I actually picked up a pencil and took the eraser of the number 2 pencil and placed it right in his midtrack where the source of the interference was. And I held it for like 30 seconds. And I couldn't find anything else to clear. And he got up and he laughed at me. He said, you don't think that could possibly do any good? I said, I don't know, I'm learning it, and that's what Dr. Toffman said worked.
Yeah.
So he laughed at me and he left. 2 hours later, he called me. He said, what did you do to me?
Yeah.
What did you do to me? I said, why? He says, I'm sitting here studying, and all of a sudden, it's like somebody poured warm honey down my neck and arm, and I have no more pain. And I got excited. Oh, it works.
Yeah.
And
Thank goodness.
another one was very similar. Do you know who Dr. Jerry Hoffman is?
I don't.
He very popular, excellent teacher at Life. He teaches SOT and a lot of other things at the school, but just an amazing guy. He and I started teaching at the school about the same time.
Yeah.
He had a similar type of experience. He was developing a sciatica, and in about 3 weeks, it was getting worse, and just seeing everybody. And I was in the research department, and he wandered in, and we knew who each other was. We didn't know each other. He says, I heard you do some weird chiropractic thing that I haven't seen before. You want to try it on me?
Yeah.
And he told me what was going on. I said, well, let's take a look. So in that case, I had him lie down on the table, very much like this one. And I scanned him with the toughness approach, found he needed a Logan basic contact, held that contact for about 20 seconds. He looked clear. I said, well, that's it for now. Let me check you later. He stood up, and his eyes were as big as saucers. And he said, what'd you do to me?
Yeah.
So what do you mean? He says, all the pain just gone. It's gone. And it stayed gone.
Yeah.
And he tells that story to each of his classes.
Yeah.
And that's how he started to turn onto the idea that this whole energetic side to the profession
Right.
might have some merit. And he's very skilled and very adept at all of this now. And just an amazing person. But those kinds of things. I hadn't been in practice long. In Hickory, North Carolina, and 3 weeks I'd been open. And this lady from California came in, and she said, I'm used to being adjusted regularly. You have to adjust me very hard for it to work.
Yeah.
I said, no problem. I said, here's the deal. Give me 2 weeks to do it the way I prefer to do it. And if it doesn't do the job, I'm happy to wail on you and really, use a high force technique. I said, I can do that. My preference.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, she says, I have never let anybody adjust me hard again. She said, I just didn't know chiropractic could work without it.
Yeah.
And so here's what the best part. She started feeling so good. She brought her 10-year-old son in later who was having some very serious health issues.
Yeah.
I adjusted him just a few times. Didn't think much about it. 30 years later, he looks me up, sends me an email. He says, you may not remember, my mom brought me in to see you 30 years ago, but I just wanted you to know, I always look back on that you saved my life. And I just thought you should know that what you did saved my life. And I said, well, that's why you become a chiropractor.
Right.
For those kinds of stories. It was in that same era, one of the very few times early in practice, medical physician referred an infant to me with torticollis. Patients brought in this infant, just a few weeks old, this heavy torticollis, cleared the spine, light touch adjustment. They called me when they got home. An X-ray.
Yeah. There you go.
Remove the interference, the body knows what to do.
Yeah.
And just time after time after time, and you get used to it.
Right.
To the point that if somebody doesn't have an experience like that, you say, well, what I miss?
What's going on?
Yeah, my Uncle Fred says, never question the principle, question the application.
And I'll get one last one because it was paradoxical.
Yeah.
And I've done all kinds of adjustment. A lot of very vigorous, manual, diverse light application. Instrument activator, use activator, love activator, softness, all different kinds of techniques. The student came in maybe 15 years ago. He was a Vietnam War veteran, and he had been exposed to Agent Orange. As a result of that, his body was very toxic, and he suffered with a systemic, ongoing, very severe pain. Like a fibromyalgia kind of presentation on steroids. It was very bad. So I thought, boy, he's in so much pain. I need to go very light. I don't want to stir this up. Every time I adjusted him with a very light adjustment, he got worse. Over about 3 or 4 weeks, I said, this is not the way it's supposed to work. I'm trying to think of different approaches, Meanwhile, of course, he wasn't getting much better. He'd gone to see somebody on campus, and they really let him have it. The all-force omnidirectional technique has really got a heavy manipulation. Worked wonders.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I
Should
said,
probably get stuck.
Well-
Some stuff.
well, there's any possible number of explanations why,
Right.
but I love the explanation that Dr. Barbwell presented. We talked about allostasis and the dosage in chiropractic. He said when we apply high force adjustment, neurologically, that tends to stop processes. Light force adjustments tend to accelerate processes. In his case, my adjustment was accelerating the part of his process that was producing pain. He needed more forceful adjusting
To stop the
to
process.
stop that process. After that, it's fine. You're managing beautifully.
Fascinating.
What kind of input? The patient's always going to give you the input. What's working? But you have to stay alert. You can't just go and say, I know this technique and I do it this way. You'll see it so many times because I saw it teaching activator. Somebody would get very skilled at activator and they'd go back to their practice and they'd do that. And all the patients they were adjusting another way before, they were so glad they had switched to activator. Now it was working. After a while, guess what? All the benefit came from that. The things that weren't caught within that technique, then they show up. Some of those patients don't experience another technique.
Yeah.
And something's addressed that's being missed
No.
is we have to stay alert to the nervous system and never assume that because we have a procedure we prefer, that's what everybody's going to need.
Yeah.
Always you have to be measuring what are your outcomes. Is the patient's nervous system normalizing and becoming more adaptable?
Yeah.
And what are your indicators? And if you'll watch that, and if you realize, as a doctor, I'm going to have to change techniques.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to approach a patient as an upper cervical specific. Sometimes I do them strictly as a lobe invasive.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do an activated protocol. Sometimes I'll do a straight topless. I'm looking for specificity, intensity of input, and patient outcome. How does it affect their immediate post-procedure palpation and then 2 hours later or 24 hours, how's it processing through for the neural adaptation?
Right.
Because as BJ said, the adjustment begins when I've finished doing what I do.
Yeah.
The adjustment is the nervous system's adaptation to the input that we've given it. And so if we do that and have the ability to speak several languages to the nervous system,
Right.
we can get more consistent, high-level results. And if you have a way of measuring that, it's even better.
That's true.
Amazing.
They didn't need it.
No, that's
No.
that's cool.
No, it's perfect.
How do you like to gauge somebody on the scale of like choosing what's best? And is it's a feeling inside, it's something you're seeing, maybe a combination of all of the things?
Yeah.
What are some of the signs? that
My
you-
strategies for that are, I have a philosophy of correction. I want to start with the least force necessary to make the maximum change.
Okay.
That's my general come from. I'll depart from that if the patient has a particular request or presentation or prior experience that suggests that I might start at a different start point. But I'm not always correct as like the young man.
Right.
My assumption wasn't, but the feedback from the patient was the clue. Oh, okay, change.
Yeah.
So oftentimes when the way I had my adjusting theater set up, and the patient would be on the table, and I would attend to the level of interference, and I would, in that same alert, innate response, I would consider then my options, and one will feel more appropriate in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'll do that and see, is there more to attend to? And I might start out with a very light touch. And you might say, oh, light touch is no longer called for here, and I'll use an activator. Okay, that clear that? There's more there. And then I'll do, a diversified urine.
Yeah.
Some other, to get the interference to clear. Until it's clear, it's not clear.
Yeah, right.
So that's my strategy. And then once that's clear, I'll reassess the entire patient. And most often, the classic presentation is, let's say that you had come in with some mid-thoracic pain. I might find an upper cervical first. It has to be clear. That's clear, then quite often then find there's something we have to do in the pelvis around the sacral base. When that's clear, oftentimes you're done, or sometimes we'll have to go into that mid-thoracic area we're feeling, or come to an anterior chest wall, or go into an extremity or a cranium, and to fully clear, everything.
I know.
But people are, just endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
Always like. It's hard to get bored if you're paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
Because if you're just knowing what we used to call the flying seven, patient lays on the table, roll this way, roll that way, crunch, 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 turn them on the back, crunch the neck, They've heard a lot of cavitation. They generally feel pretty good if they're healthy.
Yeah.
But a really sick person, that's not going to get the job done.
Yeah.
But you don't have to waste any time with analysis.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can really get a lot of throughput with that. But in terms of handling tough cases, it's not going to get the job done.
Right.
You're going to waste their time and money. And at the end of the day, when you do that, Bill Bain used to use the phrase, "You're just stamping beef."
Yeah, right.
Like an assembly line worker.
Yeah.
And he said, no, it has to be a conversation, a connection.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you're trying to find life and help life be more expressed. He says, that can never get boring.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that is always so fascinating to me, because I've been doing a lot of these podcasts recently, and I love hearing stories about it, because the more and more stories I hear about chiropractic, it's just like there's really no answer to what is having these miraculous changes where you're just thinking wow, okay, well, this one way it works so well for these patients, and I'm going through life being wow, okay, so this is it. But then I hear something completely opposite of that, and then I hear this story where somebody has epileptic seizures or Bell's palsy, and then their face is able to it's like it goes away. Or my uncle talks about adjusting AIDS patients and the Kaposi sarcomas falling off at the practice, or hearing stories about BJ and that people were dying in the waiting room, as they're filling out a patient application, they're so sick, but they're there and they die in the waiting room. It's just the range of people that have benefited from chiropractic is just so massive, and the approaches to doing it is so fascinating, because it's again, I think it's the unity and the connection where our spirits are able to heal each other, in the sense of falling in love with somebody can heal parts of your childhood that they have no association with, but they're just because you were with that person, you feel you have a different experience in life. And the cool part about chiropractic that I'm understanding is the more convicted that we are about it, it's almost like you get to blow past somebody's predisposed idea of what it is. And these miraculous healings just happen so effortlessly, It's cool. I don't know how you do it.
The interesting thing about all that is we have all these drug cases. But if we were to analyze, D.D. Palmer, adjusted Harvey Lillard, got a steering bag.
Yeah.
Now, if we line up all the deaf people in the community and you adjust 1,000 of them, a very small percentage would have a response where they get the hearing back.
Yeah.
It's cervicogenic deafness. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Well, so this is where medicine becomes critical.
Right.
As well. You can't have predictable outcomes. No, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're unraveling a system in a tensagratous model.
Right.
We're releasing tension point, and our assumption is that if we can remove the tension on the neuromusculoskeletal energetic frame,
Yeah.
or D.D. Palmer, tone is the governing principle.
Yeah.
If we can normalize the tone in the system, it's programmed to self-heal.
Right.
And we see that happening spontaneously.
Yeah.
We can't always predict. Maybe future research will work it out with AI's assistance, but I don't think so. I think it's a dynamic that, as you suggested, is dependent upon the dance.
Yeah.
We can't just put people in a box and tap them here and tap them there and get the same outcome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, what part of life is predictable other than like gravity? As far as humans go, like, there's a magic to us.
But that's the left brain modeling tries to do.
Right.
It promises a perfection and a predictability. That's not correct. And my perfect, for my mind, analogy is Ptolemy developed a scheme of cosmology based on the sun rotating around the earth.
Yeah.
It wasn't solar centric, it was earth centric.
Yeah.
His had mathematical precision.
Yeah.
He could tell where every planet and all was going to be at any given time, when there were going to be eclipses. He had mathematical certainty about something that he misunderstood completely.
Right.
That's the danger of the left brain. We can get models with predictability and say, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Take this medicine and you'll get better.
Yeah.
Well, there's something to that science.
Right.
It's not valueless, but they can't predict what outcome you're actually going to get, and they can't predict what side effects you're going to suffer or what else, the full dynamic of that. And the whole purpose is not to bring back health and wholeness and balance and symmetry. It's to suppress a symptom or attack a particular thing.
Yeah.
And it's just an empty model. So people want more, they deserve more. We can help them in that journey.
Sure. Well, the cool thing about what you're talking about is leading into understanding that the tone we have, us as individuals, have such a massive input on our tone. Meaning, like, here, take this medicine. I'm going to give you medicine that's actually medicine, and then I'm going to give you a sugar tablet that has no real metabolic change for your body. And we're going to test the efficacy of the medicine versus the sugar tablet and see what happens. And this is what we call the placebo effect. And this is what I talk about all the time. Like, this is the most fascinating thing to me, that medicine uses blind, double-blind studies using the placebo effect, meaning they test medicine versus our own belief that we're changing. Like, it should, nobody talks to me. I feel like I don't hear people talking about how incredible that is. We're testing our self-belief, like whatever we believe to be happening, it changes our physiology. Here, take this migraine medicine, it works. The double-blind study is the doctor doesn't know he's giving him a sugar pill, and the patient doesn't know that either, but their migraines go away because they believed that that's what was going to happen, which goes into this whole other aspect of the psychology of health, and that's what you're studying, is biopsychology, which is like, how many people are sick because of what they think? Right. You know, what the world is telling us. And this is why that I believe it's our duty as chiropractors to be self-empowerment coaches as well, because you give somebody hope, you give somebody courage and strength to just go, this is what's happening, and just say, you are healing. Just to say that and change what they believe is happening will have a measurable outcome, you know? It's incredible.
Yeah, well, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is a chiropractor, I mean, he has branched off into more of the mind aspect of feeling, they're all connected, but his book, You Are the Placebo, and then also he has that one, and then he's got a book that is Becoming Supernatural, and then he has one on it's not forgetting who you are. That's more of like a Ram Dass sort of quote, but it's essentially like rewriting your identity.
Yeah.
And these are all pieces of like, you are the placebo. Like you have the full capability to change the outcome based on your thoughts and your emotions and your association to both of those things. You're medical.
What you believe to be true governs an awful lot of reality, and that's what the quantum physicists are now teaching us. Your intention,
Yeah.
The intention experiments we were doing here at Life. Who is the author, physicist, and I'm blanking on the name, but it's all about intention and the power of eight and people working in that realm. The whole thing about chiropractic that I love so much is philosophically, we are not going to burden a patient with a medical diagnosis.
Yeah.
Right. The identity of that.
Because as soon as you give somebody a diagnosis, they adopt the thought process. You're a heart patient.
Yeah.
You're a cancer patient. There are times and places where it's appropriate to discuss, process what's going on, but you want to ground the patient in their identity as a person who's capable of healing.
Yes.
And how it's going on and what they might need to process. But when you focus on the disease instead of on the potential for wellness,
Somebody takes the identity of the negativity.
Right.
My PTSD, my depression, my anxiety.
Well, like even in a small way, I think like this happens, like I'm going to start this diet tomorrow. And it creates this experience of the brain of like restriction and scarcity. So then oftentimes people will eat exuberant amounts of food before they have, because they are creating this reality of restriction before it's even happening. So they're indulging.
Yeah.
And that cycle will happen over and over. We create these loops that are just,
you see that with alcoholics, and they go to meetings, they have a drive. You talk to many alcoholics and tell you the first time they tasted alcohol, they were hooked, right? There's no longer a choice for them. But when they start seeing themselves as, I used to be an alcoholic, I know they say you're always alcoholic, but they're not consuming alcohol now.
Right.
They see themselves as somebody who's saying no to alcohol. That's a new identity.
Right.
When they see themselves as consuming alcohol, well then, that's what they do.
Right.
You see this, I'm a 30-day,
Yeah, you got the
person,
clients.
or
Yeah.
30 years,
Yeah.
That's their identity. I'm someone who's not doing that.
Right.
Chiropractors, we have to teach our patients about what you're talking about to get the real magic to happen. Because if we approach it, you have scoliosis and you have a cervical curve and your disc is very thin, you really have the spine of an 80-year-old and the degenerative process is accelerating, patient really sucked into that.
Yeah.
So our job is to see what's there, be honest about it, but then focus their energy on what's right.
Right.
What's going to get better.
and what's
Right.
changing.
Benefit
How
motivated.
and how they can participate, and that they actually, regardless of whether they can stand yet or move their hands or move, they have the potential within them to be well.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of these like implants and everything, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's an attitude about healing.
Right.
And you use whatever resource necessary because you believe I'm not my disease.
Right.
I'm not my problem. I'm
Right.
not
Right.
my limitation or my bad emotion. And that's for me personally, I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
I have a divine potential.
Yeah.
I have within me the capacity to express love and hope and faith and all the other. And so if I do that, someone else's journey can be a little better, and maybe they want to adopt some of that to, like lighting candles.
Yeah.
We'll go around lighting each other's candles.
Totally.
Yeah.
Pretty soon we're not stumbling around in the dark.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's true.
I see.
I don't know. What do you think? Should put a bookmark in it? How we been going?
Any other questions that you
Yeah.
had written down?
Let me look. let's see. Talk this through with me. I guess, yeah, I was curious. Since you have been in the field for 50 years, what are the most noticeable differences and changes, and what has like surprisingly stayed the same? Just or what do you foresee for chiropractic future with so much reference to how it's been?
I don't know if it's forward casting, if this is actually so, or just my wish that it be so. But my belief is, because I see evidence of it, is more people and want the philosophy of chiropractic to be strengthened and taught. The difference is, compared to years ago, many times to express a philosophy, and people would approach it as if it were a magical kind of thing. But just get adjusted and you're going to be fine. And when I was a student at Palmer, there was a student whose wife was a diabetic, had gotten it under control through chiropractic. She didn't need her insulin anymore. Well, about 9 months later, she went into a crisis over the weekend, and rather than allow her to have the insulin again, said, no, we're just going to adjust her. She's going to be insisted the chiropractic had to be the way to get her well. Now, that wasn't well-placed faith. It wasn't the appropriate intervention. Chiropractic was wonderfully important as a recovery. But it doesn't mean in a crisis it's the very thing that's needed in that moment.
Yeah.
What I see happening is now we won't be doing much of that kind of blind faith chiropractic. But if we can hold fast to the principle and build on it, and then use our training to know when we're on thin ice and we need to confer and collaborate, I think the future will also be strengthened by such things like EPIC, upper cervical technique. Does a much better job than anything I've ever seen at the upper cervical. The functional neurology folks and people who are doing the research so that we'll have stronger standing with our medical chemicals. But as we stay true to the principle and bring that into stuff, I think we're going to have the best of both worlds. So I think there's been a lot of, in the past, chiropractic applied strictly on faith. Well, I believe in the principle, therefore, if everybody comes in, if I just do what I call an adjustment, they're going to get better.
Yeah.
They weren't paying attention. They apply the principle inappropriately. The right idea, but the execution is lacking. And so people start to say, well, we better medicalize this and research this. And that's all well and good. Maybe it helps us figure things out, understand biomechanics is a good thing. But if that causes us to lose sight of the principle, that's a bad thing.
Right.
So I think we're going to integrate that. People like yourselves will integrate that, harmonize it, draw on the good science, but the science will serve the innate.
Right.
It's been reversed for too long.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at, and that's why people are suffering so much. If we get our spiritual priorities aligned, our innate metaphysical understanding, and approach things that way, and use the science and the educated and the mechanistic mind to inform and support us, that's, I think, where we're going to have lightning in the bottle.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I always thought of science, when they were quick flash. Ever since I restarted school and like studying life sciences and things like this, I felt like I'm just like getting filled in. I was like, oh, all this is occurring, and these are just words for what's occurring. So I think of science more as just like it's observational, not explanatory. It's just the words that we use to communicate God in all of these ways, and that's kind of it. It's not the other way around. So it is exciting to have that.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yes. That is magic.
That is magic.
It's real magic.
Yeah, it's just words for magic, and I think it's a funny debate, honestly, to say it's science or it's religion or it's science or it's metaphysics or anything like that, because I mean, it really is the same thing. One's just the words for it. It's just the same. Right.
It can be and should be, but if you artificially segregate and isolate for part of the process, it's going to be sick no matter what you do.
Totally. Yeah, not to that one. Pretty much. Since we're talking about identity, and then we can close out with the question, but there was one question that I thought would be good. Looking back, what kind of person did chiropractic require you to become?
One of the hardest things that was required of me to be successful was to be an entrepreneur. So many of us go to school because we love the principle or we love some aspect of the practice. But to be successful, you've got to learn to be a small business owner. You've got to become an entrepreneur. And that was one of the hardest things for me to grapple with and to begin to learn. It wasn't my personality. It wasn't easy for me. And I see it now. An awful lot of students, they're very in touch with certain parts of their emotions. I love the practice and the philosophy and the intention of chiropractic. You talk to them about running a business, you're like, they're not interested in it because that brings them into a space they don't feel comfortable. Right. But unless you're going to make chiropractic a hobby, you better learn how to make it.
Yeah.
But
Sustainable.
And that's the right coaching can do so much to make that happen. So I'm a big believer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I have a question for you. What, understanding that your youngest child, is following in your footsteps in chiropractic, what is your wish for her or prayer or something that would you like her to know? Or consider?
I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think she will be magnificent and bring such a healing presence, just your presence. I would say educate your left brain as much as you can. Like not know the nervous system inside out and backwards, but also the tensegrity of the energetic matrix, the intelligence field. It's a real thing, the field of intelligence, and see how that field informs the neurology, and then use your adjustment as a way to bring harmony back to the energetic consegritous structure. And when you do that, it will help people balance emotions, balance your lives, balance your body, and you'll be surprised how it's not draining. That it's actually enlivening to you. You'll finish a busy day and you'll be refreshed. When other people are coming home out, they'll speak down, dog eat dog world.
Yeah.
So where,
Yeah. Good.
That's interesting that you say that. I've come home being like, I don't know if I could do like a high volume kind of practice or anything like that. Like I just feel like I'd get exhausted. So I feel like that was like a message that to receive.
Volume is not the issue. I've seen 300 a day. Didn't like it. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I've known I don't need to see a patient for a long period of time. Minute and a half, 2 minutes. I can adjust a lot of people and do a very good job. Mm-hmm. I can't do it to my satisfaction that fast. So I think an awful lot of chiropractors settle on between 80 and 100 a day is a pretty good volume. Some people, especially like your AK practitioners, they might see 2 or 3 an hour.
Yeah.
And so a busy day for them would be 20.
Right, totally.
But it's a different
Practice.
Totally different.
type of approach. Wonderful approach, love it, but
Hey.
you'll find your thing. So, but once you know what's necessary for you to connect with and help your patient, then it's just about the ergonomics of the process, and how do you not waste time, not waste motion, and that's where volume and capacity start to show up. Because so many docs, and they put the tables wrong, the rooms wrong, and they're wasting steps, and they're wasting time with how they do their notes and how processes flow. And you know this.
Right.
Practice management coaches can help you with it. That's going to streamline so that you can get the most out of the time that you're available to care for patients.
Yeah.
Because we're not in hospital settings where we have 24/7 coverage.
Never.
Yeah, we're in private offices. We can only do what we can do.
Yeah.
And that's why, we've got to be efficient, straightforward. We don't want to waste any time. When you get out of school, you think, oh my goodness, it's going to take me an hour to do a history and an exam. And then you go to an office and see you've got 10 minutes to get the history and exam on a PI case.
Yeah.
And, huh?
Yeah.
That can be done?
Yeah.
Well, it can.
Yeah.
You learn how to do efficiencies.
Yeah.
You learn how to do examinations in such a way that you combine tests and findings to help you assess what's really going on. You'll get most of your information from your history because you'll learn the right questions, but you won't waste time just jawing about life because you'll be focused.
Yeah.
Don't let a focus on volume be a factor at all. Right? It's not. Deliver the value, then look at how do you do that efficiently and effectively. And,
Find your pace.
the way we always used to teach was, you value your time $10 a minute.
Yeah.
So if you take an hour with the patient, having a conversation, well, that should be $600. Now, if you only charge you $30, then you reckon, oh, that's not good for the business model.
Right.
Maybe they need an hour. Maybe that's money you're willing to leave on the table. But that's the dilemma that faces the practices that see a patient for 30 minutes. They should be charging $300 for a half hour. The perception in the marketplace is such that people aren't going to really come out of pocket for that. The insurance isn't going to reimburse them.
Right.
So you're looking at different.
That's right.
That's where a lot of chiropractors give up on analysis. They do the flying 7 or something. They can knock them out in a minute or 2 minutes. Guess what? They get, $30 for 2 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
You put that for
A few hours a day.
30 in an hour. That's a $900 hour.
Yeah.
If you charge somebody, people pay $30 all day.
Yeah.
But then the physical stamina
Right.
to do that over and over and over again.
Yeah. There's a lot to consider.
And it's a wonderful thing, but
Yeah.
don't stress over it. It will flow naturally, and you'll figure out how to price your services, how to give time to the patient. I've always believed and thought the patient should leave feeling they got way more than you charge. If you charge a lot, that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as they feel like they receive more value
Right.
than what you charge, you're golden.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. 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 Thanks so much. You got it. Go team.
All right, thank you. Yay.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.